Trek. And what we're going to do is build, there's this graphic that's been circulating around related to the movie where it's the Starfleet symbol, and inside of it they've got some pictures composited in there of some of the crew. So we thought we would try and venture into that here in this tutorial. So obviously we need to start with a file. I've gone ahead and created a new file, and what I've done is I'm going to go ahead and open up my paths panel, and I've gone ahead and created a tracing. What I did was actually found the graphic online and then downloaded it and simply traced the shape using my path tool, as you can see right here, so I can go ahead and start compositing my images inside of it. Now I've gone ahead and created a fill of this shape, so I just wanted to show you the path I created, so there it is. So let's go ahead and close our paths panel, and I've gone ahead and loaded that path as a selection and then gone ahead and create a new layer and filled it with gray. So that's our base graphic. So now we need to build our photos on top of this and apply the color and everything. So that's what we're going to do now. So the images I'm going to use, I'm not going to use the actual images from the movie, but I'm going to use some people you might be familiar with. I've got some pictures here of the Photoshop guys. We got Matt, RC, and myself, and Dave Cross. So we're going to composite these inside of this graphic. But before we do that, we got to set up a couple of things inside this image. So let's go ahead and minimize these images back down, and we'll get back to these in just a moment. All right, so here's our graphic. I'm going to go ahead and press Command or Control R, and that's going to bring up my rulers onto this image, and I'm just going to drag out a vertical and horizontal path pretty much in the center of the document, and that's what that's going to do is divide my graphic here into 4 quadrants, as you can see right there. And these are the 4 quadrants we're going to composite our photos in. So with that, let's start up here in the top quadrant, this one right here. I'm going to go over here in the toolbar and grab my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to draw a box in that one quadrant. And it's going to snap to the edges of those guys just like that, and that's perfect. So with that selection active, let's go ahead and add the image we're going to put in this quadrant here. And I'm going to go ahead and put my picture in there right here. So we've got this image open. Let's go into the Edit menu. Or I'm sorry, let's go into the Select menu and choose All, and that will select the entire image. And let's go under Edit and go to Copy, and that will copy it to the clipboard. Let's reminimize that back down, and back inside our image, keeping that selection active, we're going to go under the Edit menu and go to Paste Into. And what that's going to do is paste that image inside of that selection. You'll notice what happened over here in the Layers panel is that it pasted in there and added a layer mask automatically, masking that area that was selected. And notice that the layer mask is not linked to my image, which means I can go in here and move the image around itself without moving the mask either. So you can go ahead and manually click in there and link them together and it will move it around. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep that unlinked so I can position this image where I want. I'm going to go ahead and press Command or Control T to invoke the free transform. And let's go ahead and scale this down and perhaps give it a little bit of rotation there. It's going to be outside that image area, so that's okay. And we'll press Enter. Now, I want to clip it inside of the Starfleet symbol here, so I'm just going to go ahead and hold down my Option key or the Alt key on Windows, and it will go ahead and clip it. We'll just click in between those layers, and it will clip it inside that shape. Looks pretty good. Now, one more thing I'm going to do with that image, I'm going to remove the color information by going under the Image menu, go to Adjustments, and choose Desaturate. So now let's move on and add the next image. So I'm going to take that rectangular marquee tool once more, drag out and select this area, get our next image, and we're going to go ahead and put Mr. Cross in here. So I'm just going to use my keyboard shortcut to select all. That's Command or Control A, and then I'm going to press Command or Control C to copy it to the clipboard. Just a quicker way of doing it. Minimize this image back inside of here. Now we're going to paste this, and I'm going to go ahead and use the keyboard shortcut for paste into, which normally if you paste an image it's Command V, but if you want to paste into a selection like we did a moment ago, you simply press Shift Command V, and it does that very same thing. So now let's go ahead and scale this image, format it inside of there, perhaps give it a little rotation if we need to. And we can always adjust these after we've made these adjustments. If we find that we need to add a rotation or scale a little bit, we can always do that after the fact later. So let's go ahead and add this to the clipping group by holding down that Option key once more and clicking in between those layers. And as we did a moment ago, I'm going to remove the color information by simply pressing Shift Command U. Now, I'm going to go ahead and leave this layer of me in black and white, but I'm going to add color to these other ones. So there we have the Dave Cross one, but let's jump back to my image for a minute there. So there's my layer. I'm just going to run some levels on this. I'm going to press Command or Control L, and I'm just going to darken these features up a little bit, perhaps brighten it just to increase that contrast. It makes it a little bit more dramatic. Right about like that. I'll go ahead and click OK. And let's do the same levels adjustment on this image. So we'll boost those shadows or crush those shadows in and increase those highlights a little bit. But we're also going to add a color to this layer. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new blank layer and just drag it underneath this layer of Dave Cross right there. And just as we did a moment ago, I'm going to make a selection of this area. In fact, it doesn't need to be the entire area. Let's just drag it over the area of the symbol. And let's get a kind of a red color here. Get this kind of a dark red color there. I'm just going to press Option Delete. It's going to go ahead and fill that layer in there. We don't see it because this image is on top of it. But simply select that image layer and change its blend mode from normal to multiply. And you can see it's contrasting in there quite nicely. I'll just make my panel a little bit bigger here so you can actually see what's going on. Make these really big, so there we go. That's much better. So now you can see I've got Dave Cross clipped inside that layer, and he's blending over the red patch, which is right underneath it. So let's do that with the rest of the images. So let's generate a selection of this panel here. And we're going to open up this image we have of RC. Again, Command A to select all, copy to clipboard, Command C, minimize, and Shift Command V will paste into that selection. And let's reposition it and scale it. I'm simply pressing Command T and just hold down your Option and your Shift key, that would be Shift Alt on Windows, to scale it proportionally from the center. And we'll just position that right about there. And we'll nudge it down a little bit. Again, clip it inside, hold down your Option key, click in between those layers, and there we have that. And let's remove that color simply by pressing Shift Command U. That would be Shift Control U on Windows. And there we have it. So now let's add a color to this just as we did a moment ago. I'm going to add a new layer right beneath this layer of RC by simply holding down my Command key and then clicking that new layer icon, and it does it automatically underneath. So let's generate a selection of that area, and this time we're going to add a blue color. So in my swatches panel, I'm going to get a pretty bright cyan color here. And on that blank layer, let's simply press Option Delete, and it will fill that color in. And just as we did with Dave Cross's photograph, we're going to change the blend mode of this image from normal to multiply. And let's, of course, increase that contrast by running a levels on it. And we'll get that a little bit brighter there. That looks good. Okay, one last image to go. Let's, as we did a moment ago, select this area. And we're going to open up our last image. Here we have a picture of Matt. Go ahead and press Command A. Once again, copy to the clipboard. Back inside the image, Shift Command V. We'll paste it into the selection. And again, Command and Control T to free transform, and let's scale it in and reposition it here. Now press Enter. Now, go ahead and add it to the clipping group by holding down that Option key, clicking in between those layers, and reposition it if necessary. Right about there. And again, remove that color information by simply pressing Shift Command U. And we're going to add a color to this one. So I'm going to hold down my Command key, click the new layer icon. It puts a new layer underneath. Let's go ahead and grab that rectangular marquee and drag a selection in that area. And we're going to give this a sort of yellow color. So select yellow swatch right here in my swatches panel, press Option Delete. And let's simply select that layer of matte, changing it from normal to multiply. And again, let's use the levels to increase the contrast. I'm going to press Command L, push the darks in a little bit, bring up those highlights, make them a little bit brighter. And it looks pretty good. I think I need to reposition this image of Dave. And as I mentioned earlier, even though these are all in place, they're all on their own layers, which means we can freely move them around. So if I wanted to nudge this one of Dave down a little bit, maybe get more of his eye in there. And perhaps I want to nudge this one of me just a little bit over. So I'm completely free to adjust them anywhere I want them to be. Now, couple things I want to do. On that original shape layer, down here at the bottom of the layers, I'm going to throw a quick drop shadow on that. So with that layer selected, go into the effects menu and go here and select drop shadow. And you can see it's giving me a little bit of depth. If I turn the preview on and off, you can see it adds a little bit more to it. The original didn't necessarily have a drop shadow, but you know what? I like it. So let's go ahead and add that. And then finally, throw in, or we don't need our guides anymore. So let's go over here into the view menu and go to show and select guides. We'll go ahead and turn those off. Now, all I got to do now is simply turn on the text layer, and there's today's date for the big movie, Star Trek, in theaters now. Go check it out, and I hope you enjoy it.